Now, with the government shutdown in its third week, Senate Republicans have blocked yet another attempt to reopen the government. Now, Senate Democrats, of course, have been attempting to advance a couple of bills passed by the Democratic-controlled House. Now, one bill would fund the Department of Homeland Security through at least next February, while the other would fund the rest of the impacted departments and agencies through the end of the fiscal year, which would be September 30th. Now, so of course, this would have the impact of reopening the pieces of the federal government and making sure that furloughed workers, those 800,000 workers, end up getting paid. Now, they tried to advance this bill by bringing it to a consent to vote, right? So they were looking for a consent to vote, which means they have to ask the Senate Majority Leader. Now, any senator can ask for that consent to vote, and any senator can object. Well, who objected? That would be Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell decided to block these two bills, saying the Senate, quote, wouldn't participate in something that doesn't lead to an outcome. So it says, well, you're going to advance this piece of legislation to reopen the government? Well, we know that's not going to go anywhere. So, no, blocked. Well, wait a minute. Why not just let it get to the president? Or at least have a vote on it so that we know where Republicans stand. Oh, right. They don't want to do that because that will show either them being against Trump, or it would just show their position of making sure that they vote in favor to continue having a government shutdown so that Trump would get his very unpopular wall. So either way, politically, it looks terrible for him. And not only that, but any Republican that officially backs this. Now, McConnell also said that he would not bring legislation to the floor in the shutdown unless there was a deal between President Trump and Democrats on border security. He said the solution to this is a negotiation between one person in the country who can sign something into law, the President of the United States and our Democratic colleagues. Okay, well, what's interesting is, look, we had a bill passed. Democrats and Republicans, they got together, they passed a piece of legislation, it went to the White House, and Donald Trump was going to sign it until he got bullied by Rush Limbaugh and Ann Coulter. Now, tell me again, who elected Rush Limbaugh to run the country? Oh, right, nobody. Same with Ann Coulter. Weird how President Trump is listening to television, not even television, sorry, but radio pundits that basically go against the will of the people, that are representing only a small minority of really hateful, racist people. Weird. And yet the president is listening to him instead of getting a strong message by Congress, people who are actually supposed to represent the people, by passing these pieces of legislation and saying, President Trump, you must sign this. This is the will of the people. This is what the people want you to do. But Mitch McConnell does not have the balls to be able to do so. Of course. And so the child in the White House is listening only to the most extreme members of the conservative media, and that's why we're still in the shutdown. Now, Trump, you guys know, is demanding more than $5 billion for the wall. Democrats say, we'll give you $1.3 billion for a border fence. It's not for the wall, it's for the fence. Well, hey, to be fair, a fence is kind of a wall, right? And it works the same way. Just saying. Not only that, but look, think about what the president would actually have to do if he were to get the wall. By the way, that $5 billion would not fund the entire thing. That $5 billion would fund a very small fraction of the wall. This is why Democrats haven't caved. Because if they cave on this for a small section, then what else is Trump going to shut down? What else is he going to weaponize and use as political leverage against the Democrats in order to get his wall? So best to deny this baby tantrum and do what's best for the country, right? But again, what would he actually have to do in order to get the wall? Now, this will not be very popular with conservatives. It turns out Trump would have to take a lot of private property away from regular Americans in order to build a wall. on the border. Because again, he would need to use eminent domain to literally take people's property away to build that wall. So that's one of the reasons why nobody there wants it. And while we, of course, sit and have a conversation about walls, border agents, by the way, are discovering drug tunnels made by cartel members. No. So you know what this is about? This isn't about an actual wall. This isn't about an actual policy position. No, this is about Donald Trump's ego, right? That's why he wants the wall. It's for his ego. It's a vanity project. But why is Mitch McConnell not letting this happen? Is Mitch McConnell in favor of a wall? Apparently, kind of. This is about politics. He is up for re-election in 2020 and doesn't want to publicly break from Trump unless, of course, he has the overwhelming amount of Republicans in the Senate that would vote with him to override a presidential veto. Other than that, he's too afraid to act without that. See, Mitch McConnell does not act on example. He doesn't actually stand up and say, you know what, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that we fund the government without your demands for the wall. And President Trump, you ought to listen because I can get the rest of Republicans behind me. He's supposed to try to whip up the votes and try to present some form of, strength to get his position, to get his way. But he's not doing that. Mitch McConnell has no strength. Mitch McConnell is a political opportunist. And so he doesn't actually care about doing the right thing. He cares about only doing the politically expedient thing. So, but anyway, since we know this is about politics when it comes to McConnell, he is, of course, going to project this onto the Democrats. In fact, he said on the floor of the House, here in the Senate, my Democratic colleagues have an important choice to make. They can stand with common sense border experts, none of which want the wall, with federal workers who also don't want the wall, despite them not getting paid. A lot of them, that have been interviewed have said things like, hey, look, I want to get paid. I want this government shutdown to end. But I also don't want my pay to be weaponized by politicians. And that's what's happened, right? Not only that, but McConnell continues, he said, and with their own past voting records, or by the way, or they could continue to remain passive spectators, complaining from the sidelines, as the speaker refuses to negotiate with the White House. Well, now wait a minute here. Remind me again, who walked out of the negotiations like a bitch, like a spoiled child? It wasn't Nancy Pelosi. No. It was Donald Trump. As soon as they did not agree to his outrageous demands, he left. And that was it. And he has refused to meet with Democrats since. Not only that, but McConnell still says, oh no, Nancy Pelosi, you are bending to the far left by not giving Donald Trump everything that he wants. Really? The far left? Okay, well, only about a third of Americans, according to polling, want a border wall. So I guess if she's bending to the far left, it would be 2/3 of Americans. 2/3 of Americans are far left, according to Mitch McConnell. Hey, you know what? I don't have any complaints about that. Sure, you want to call us the far left, the majority of Americans, great. Hey, true, 70% of Americans want Medicare for all. That's a far left position, right? No, it's a sensible position. What is not a sensible position is holding the government hostage for a wall that won't work and that will cost a ton of money for no return. So this whole idea of trying to divide the Democrats and to blame them for the government shutdown that Trump was more than happy to take credit for is 100% ridiculous. All this is, again, this is political. Mitch McConnell is trying to save his political ass while trying to defend an indefensible position. Algorithm, messing around with view counts, etc. We're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.